Hey everybody, this is Les and Christy, and this is the Easy Farms Podcast, where we are doing things from the ground up. We're here to help guide your homesteading adventure and hopefully make the journey a little easier. Welcome back to the Easy Farm Podcast. We hope everybody's had a great week. I know we've had a kind of a wild ride here lately with some colder temperatures, and right in the middle of that, a litter of puppies.
We had a litter of puppies. Our Great Pyrenees, she got pregnant.
Emma,
and she had puppies. She had 8 puppies. We did lose one, unfortunately, but that's kind of par for the course for a large litter.
It happens with a big litter like that. Yeah.
And so one of the things we were concerned about is we didn't intend for her to get pregnant this go around and have puppies in the cold of the winter, but it did happen, and dogs just make away.
Yeah, I think we were down the hill one day and things were going crazy down there with all the animals. And I think you said, just put her in with Zeke. It'll be okay. and 2 months later, we got 8 puppies.
Right. That's probably what happened. And so right here, the week at the time she was about to deliver, we noticed the temperatures had a sudden drop. I mean, it wasn't even predicted. It's just some sudden drop. And the temperatures were getting down to 7 and to 12 and to 10. And, and then the next nights we're going to be like 20 and 21. But those lower numbers were really concerning us. So we brought her into the barn stall and had her in there and closed off the barn just for wind's sake. But, it's still cold. It's very cold in there. And we have a whelping box that she's had puppies in before, and she knows what to do. But because of the concerns, Les built
a box over the box. We built it into a pretty large doghouse or puppy birthing room. We had the red heat lamps in there to help keep warm. Christy had actually ordered a warming pad online to go underneath them. And so we went out late before bedtime. It was about 11 o'clock. I think you went out there and then you called me and you said, you got to get out here. She's having puppies. And she had gotten out of the box that I spent so much time working on, laid down beside it, and started having puppies in the hay beside the box instead of inside the box. So we, actually it was just one at that point. So Christy grabbed that and a towel.
No, not yet. Not at that point. As a backup, I ordered a whelping box, like the whelping box that we have the whelping box that we have out in the barn is one that Les built and that she's used. So this one is one I ordered on Amazon for large dogs, easy to put together, and just in case she was going to do that very thing. And she had her puppies on the night. It was going to be like 77 degrees.
Does it sound like we've been around this tree before?
Yeah. So we ran inside. I said, we got to hurry and get that. We tried to put her and the puppy back in the box, hoping she would do it. She picked that puppy up and she got back out of that box, and she wasn't going to have it. And so we ran inside and Les put that together. Fortunately, it was easy to put together. And we had a bathroom big enough to hold it. And we ran in there. And so we started putting newspaper down, put that together, put little towels down. And we ran out there. By the time we got back, we probably wasn't inside 10 minutes. Time we got back, she had her second puppy. So I grabbed a towel, picked up both puppies.
I grabbed a leash and put it on Emma, and we took off running for the house.
Yeah, ran into the house because we wanted to get her in the house before she has any more puppies. So we put her in the box, put the puppies in the box, and she stayed in there. I mean, she didn't really have much of a choice unless she wanted to step out of the box and have them next to the box, next between the tub and the toilet and the box, and she didn't do that, but she stayed in there. And
one thing you have to understand about Great Pyrenees is they do what they want to do.
Yeah.
You can, we can tell them to sit and they'll sit and maybe lay down and maybe they will. That's pretty much it. They do what they want to do. They're field dogs and they're used to being out with the animals, and they're not indoor dogs at all. Although we have known people that have had them indoors, but ours are outside dogs. And to bring them in the house was like totally out of character for us to bring them in and for them to be in. It was very interesting.
Yep. Yep. And if anybody doesn't know what a Great Pyrenees is, Great Pyrenees is they are livestock guardian dogs. So we have our Pyrenees, and they protect the chickens, the sheep, the goats. They're very, very great, wonderful dogs for your farm. They will chase down anything and bark at anything with a really deep bark to keep them off the property that's going to harm the animals. They're more aggressive toward other animals, especially, nighttime animals, wild animals, any of them, whether it be a raccoon or a fox or a coyote or any of that. They're very brave dogs to keep them off the property.
They were bred to take care of the sheep and to protect them against wolves.
Yeah.
So they were wolf killers.
Yeah.
And so they're pretty good sized dogs. Emma's probably 65,
maybe 70 pounds.
Zeke, he's not 100, but he's probably in the 80s.
Could be. Yeah. A lot of them get up to 100 and over.
Oh, yeah.
That's very common.
Yeah, ours are relatively small.
Yeah, Emma's probably I want to say she's about 75 pounds.
Yeah.
And Zeke could be about 85 pounds. But so she had her puppies in the house, did really well.
In the bathroom, in a whelping box, and she took up most of the whelping box.
Yeah, and so she did great, and she wasn't any problem, except we locked the door at night. And when you go out of the bathroom door, it goes into a bedroom, and it's one of our kids' old bedrooms. And so one night, but the door didn't get shut. It got shut, but it didn't get clicked.
Yeah, I got up in the middle of the night, and she was barking, like just losing her mind, barking. I'm like, what in the world is she barking at? She's closed up in the bathroom. I'm like, I better go check on that. So I opened the bedroom door. And she had destroyed one of the blinds on the window. I mean, just shredded it. Whatever was outside, I'm glad she didn't break the window. That was my concern. It's like, yike. Because she was losing her mind barking. And apparently she heard something out there, and she didn't like it. And she just, I guess, banged into the door, and it wasn't clicked shut good. And she was in the bedroom, and there was all kinds of other stuff in there. I'm glad she didn't turn over, or tear up. But she destroyed the blinds in that room. And I got her back in the bathroom, and the door was, I don't know what it was stuck. It wouldn't close good. I just leaned on as hard as I could and got it to click finally. And knew she couldn't get back out after that. But yeah, she made a mess of things.
So she had those puppies. They are just precious. One of them did pass away the next day. It was just the runt of the litter. Mm-hmm. And she's been a great mama, still taking care of those puppies.
This is her third litter?
This is her third litter. We didn't want to breed her again for a little while. We wanted to wait, but here we are.
Yeah.
So we got 7 adorable little puppies. The mom and dad are solid white. Most of the puppies are white. A few of them are white with badger spots, like black spots, which is very common to Pyrenees in their markings. Most people think they're solid white, but they really do have badger markings on them also. And they're so sweet. All of them are so pretty and so sweet with that. But
their eyes are not open yet.
No, their eyes are still not open yet. They'll open probably in the next few days. We did take her out after about day 6. We got it above 30, like 8, so in the temperatures over the next like 3 or 4 nights. So we took her out to the barn, put her in the whelping box, and she stayed this time. Well, she wanted to get out. We got onto her and told her to stay, and then she just laid down, and she's been there. Mm-hmm. The puppies have been in there, done really well, conditioned to the weather. Now they can handle the drop in temperatures now with that, because she is not real comfortable just staying in the house. She was after about day 5, she was very restless in that bathroom and wanting to come out and have a break from the puppies. And I don't blame her. So what else? What are some of the other things that's happened on the property?
Oh, well,
on the farm?
We've got Nigerian dwarf goats, and one of them, Izzy, had a baby. So it was a buck. The situation was she was a first-time mama, And sometimes they just don't know what to do. Izzy, we have Izzy's mom on the property too. So she's always been the daughter, so it's like she never had to grow up, I guess, or something. But it's like she just didn't know what to do. So Christy was down there, and what were you having to do?
Well, I was going down there to check. I knew they were pregnant, and I figured when I was watching her and looking at her, I thought, okay, she's going to have one of the two of them are going to have little ones any day now. And so I went on down the property, and I looked at her, and she came running up to me to get a little scoop of food along with the others, and I noticed, which kind of looked, not to get graphic or anything, but a little bit was hanging out of her back end. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the beginning of her starting something, like a water type breaking or something. I don't know what goes inside a goat, but that's just an assumption of that. And that, okay, maybe she's about to have this goat. And I thought, well, I need to go look around just in case she's had it. But that doesn't sound right that she would be over next to me. But goats are very much, what would you say, ruled by the stomach. So if there's feed, they will definitely leave their little ones and come run across the field to have some feed. But I didn't see anything. So I just looked all over the place, couldn't find anything. And I happened to go around to do something in another pasture where the sheep are, where the goats can get into. And I looked around, and I was walking away, headed back to the house, and I just turned my head and noticed this little baby, almost to the point where you're looking like, what is that? And I thought, oh my goodness, that is a baby goat. And I ran around, and
still wet, or was it dry?
It was dry. It was dry. And fortunately, it was a good warm day. Yeah. The temperatures had jumped up on this day, and I was very thankful that the baby was dry. It wasn't sitting there in its sack, totally neglected. So I picked the baby up, took it to Izzy, and the baby tried to start nursing, and I noticed Izzy stepping away and stepping away and stepping away. And I thought, oh no, this is not good. So I got her and the baby into a little holding pen that we have. And I decided I would give her some food, and I would tie her up and let her eat the food and try to get her to nurse the baby while she's eating. And she still was twixt back and forth between the eating and the baby. Like sometimes she'd get focused on eating and let the baby nurse. I thought that was a really good sign. But then the moment she recognized what was going on, she did not want to have any part of it. So I had to hold her because this baby had to have the colostrum in the beginning that needs the first couple of days, that needed its nourishment and its calories, or it wasn't going to make it. It was the sweetest little thing, just to bang at its mom and wanting attention. And so I got a little bit of time with her nursing, but it was by sheer force holding Izzy in position so she could nurse. And then I went ahead and let Izzy go and kept her in there with her baby and thought this will be a bonding time. Now she'll finally, take to the baby. So
start paying attention to her. Yeah.
So I went back out about an hour and a half later to check, and Izzy was having nothing to do with her. And I thought, okay, we're going to do this again. We're going to nurse again, because that wasn't just but a couple minutes of nursing that I could get her to do. And so I did that all day long. And Izzy would headbutt the baby every time it would come over. And I thought, this baby's going to die from too many headbutts. And I didn't know what to do. And I knew another goat was going to have a baby any day. And I thought, well, boy, I hope she has these babies today, her baby today. Because then you can kind of sneak in a baby and with another mama with a newborn, and sometimes she'll take it and adopt her as hers. But I had to go out of town.
Yeah, you were helping her daughter relocate out of state. And I was having to go back to work the next morning. And you were like, you're going to have to take care of this goat. And I'm like, I'm not going to be here.
Well, I did run to the store, and I went ahead and got some colostrum powder and milk replacer. And I had a
baby bottle.
Yeah, and a syringe and a baby bottle. And so I worked with that with the baby, and hoping that would work. And it took most of the day for him to finally adjust to the baby bottle and start getting some nourishment. I was really getting concerned about him. It was pretty much into the dark of the evening before he started taking that bottle. And then, I don't know, you or I decided.
Well, we were sitting there talking, like, what are we going to do? And you were like, oh, the neighbors.
Yeah.
Let's call the neighbors, because they have goats too. and they got a bunch of little kids running around their house. So I was like, okay, yeah, call them. So you called them, and she was like, oh, yeah, we'll take it. So I was like, you went out the back door, and you're going to go down the hill to bring the baby up. And it must have been about 7 minutes, and the neighbors were sitting in the driveway. We were like, well, we thought we'd be able to go down and bring it back up before y'all got here. We didn't know you wanted it that bad. So they came and took it, and we gave them some of the colostrum to take with them and the baby bottle and all that. So she sent you a text the next day saying it started taking the bottle really well, right?
Taking the bottle really well. And fortunately, unfortunately, but in this case, fortunately, they had a mama goat who had just 2 days before did the same thing and neglected her baby, and they decided to start milking her. So they have the milk.
They have goat milk.
They've got goat milk for this. So I don't know if they're trying to take this little one to see if the mama will take it. I doubt it, because she didn't take her own baby. She wasn't going to take this one. But fortunately, they had goat milk that they could feed the baby. So that just worked out for them. And they have a bunch of kids, so they got they can take turns feeding that baby.
And the thing about bottle feeding a goat like that, a baby goat, it becomes one of the siblings. It thinks it's a human. It will be.
They're like a puppy.
Even more than a pet. I mean, it's just going to be like, it will be right there with you, doing everything you're doing.
Well, and people like to buy that. So if I would have been home, I would have bottle fed this baby goat and sold it as a bottle fed Nigerian dwarf goat, because people like Nigerian dwarf goats as little pets, especially knowing they've been bottle fed.
Yeah.
Same way with sheep. Some people like bottle fed sheep because they're just so, they tag along like a little puppy.
So you went out of town. The next night I went down, took care of all the animals down there, collected eggs, came back up, went to work, came home that evening, 24 hours later down there collecting eggs and feeding everybody and watering everybody. And our other goat had delivered not one, but 2 babies. And it was really, I wasn't expecting it. And when I was walking by, I heard this little noise over in the yard where they are. And I was like, oh my gosh, a baby goat. And I looked a little more, I was like, oh my gosh, 2 baby goats.
Which is very common for second pregnancies in Nigerian dwarf.
Yeah.
They typically will have sometimes 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And I not as common for, but it does happen often enough. And this mama is her second time mama. She's had 1 the first time and 2 this go around. We have another one that's pregnant. I have a feeling she's going to have 2 also. She did well. Both of these did well on their first pregnancy.
Let me ask you, when is the most inconvenient moment in the next few days? Because that's probably when she's going to have them.
Okay, we're not speaking that. She'll have them when she's ready to have them, and because she was a good mama on her first one, I believe she'll be a good mama on the next ones. Yeah. Also, so we've had a fun-filled week. We've had 8 puppies born in the dread of the cold. And we fortunately had some forethought to order that second whelping box, because that other one was not fitting in the house.
Oh, no.
It was much bigger, and we didn't want to bring it in. It was definitely made for the barn. So then we had that. Then we had 1 baby goat. And then we had 2 baby goats. And in the next few days, we'll probably have some more. We also have some sheep that'll probably be some lambs due at the end, maybe at the end of March is what I'm thinking. When I think about it, probably. So it could be anywhere between now and March, but now and the end of March. But right now, that won't be long. That won't be long from now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what else? Don't we have a question or something?
Yeah, actually, we do have a question. We have one from Christian, and it says, I'm looking to purchase land, but I don't know where to start. How many acres should I purchase? And what should I want to have on the property when I first purchase it? Wow. That's a lot of questions in one question. It really kind of depends, like how many acres on what you're going to do. We are on 38 acres. We got about 10 acres of pasture, and the rest of it's heavily treed. You would depending on if you're going to do rotational grazing with animals, you would want about half of that in pasture, I would think, depending on what all you're going to graze and how many you're going to graze. One of the first things that somebody actually told us at a conference was, when you first buy your land, don't build right away. You need to spend some time walking around on it, seeing like where would be the most logical place to put your outbuildings, your barns, that sort of thing.
Fences.
Yeah, your fences. Because you may come out there and go, this is where I want my house. And then, you build a house, and then 5 years later, you're like, man, I wish the house was over that way a little bit, and you can't move it. It's there. So spend some time on your land, walking around on it, going from like pasture to pasture, and actually get used to it and kind of get to where you're feeling comfortable on it and seeing where you do move around. As far as what do you want on it, that usually has to do more with whatever piece of land you buy. If there's a pond or a stream, something like that on it.
Water sources are really good.
Yeah. Water at ground level is an amazing thing, because where we are, we're way out in the country, and we're on a well. And when you have a power outage, the well's electric. That means you also have a water outage. So something that goes on for days or weeks, depending on the event.
It costs a lot to put in a pond. So some people sell their land and there's already a pond on it.
Yeah.
That been there for a long, long time. So it wasn't a major investment as it is now.
Right.
So
and
it's just really
is there
great.
already a house on? You may buy a piece of property that has a house and a barn on it already. So there's, it just really depends on what you're going to do as to what you're going to be looking for. And if you're working with a realtor, you can tell them these things, find something with a pond, or if there's a stream, that sort of thing. It already has a house on it, or is it just raw land?
Perimeter fencing is great. If anybody's selling like farmland and they have maybe it used to be a cow pasture and they have a perimeter fencing.
That's gold.
That is just gold. Fencing is gold, especially the perimeter.
It costs a lot of money to put fences up. We know we've done a bunch of it, and because what we bought was farmland, it was row crops and where the pastures are, and we turned it into pasture for grazing, which wasn't that hard to do, but it's not fenced. Right. Now, the house before this, we were on 5 acres, and it was actually fenced. So that was a big plus on that one. And it also had a small pond. So what you need to do is figure out what you want to do. Of course, you can garden just about anywhere. But, kind of get an idea in your head what you're wanting to do as far as animals, farming, crops, that sort of thing. And we heat the house with a wood stove. So having trees is a big benefit too. Right now we're getting our wood from somewhere else, but I've got, 28 acres of trees that if I needed to start cutting trees and splitting firewood, we've got lots of firewood standing around.
But if you don't, if you're, and money is a factor too.
Yeah.
So if you're looking in one area, it may be a little more expensive than another area. More land is more expensive than another area. Some land that's just got picturesque, it's going to be more expensive than land that was just a cow farm, things like that. So consider your budget, work within that. Yeah. If you're just trying to have a garden and chickens, maybe a few goats, you're not going to need that much land. Yeah, we don't use all of our land. We don't use all of our fencing, pasture. However, if we grow our sheep more like we want to, then we will eventually stretch into more pastures, and we're thankful that we have it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you can get a little bit more land, then, and you have a little more fields, that you can go, well, one day we're changing a little bit of this, the outlook of the homestead, and we may want to start cows or may want to start sheep or something. And you're thankful at that point you have it. Now, one thing to consider, once you do have it, then you got to figure out how to maintain it. Do you get a tractor? Is it too much for just a lawnmower, a riding lawnmower? There's always people also around that like to come bush hog and round bale your property and they'll do it for you and take off the hay if you don't want it. And if you need some of it, they'll sometimes work a split with you, like giving you a quarter of it, and they take the rest because they've done all the labor and had all the machinery.
Yeah, if you're going to have grazing animals, round bales or square bales, you can either get them from your own property or you can go buy them somewhere else. And it's usually a lot less expensive to round bale or square bale your own property. Of course, finding somebody to do that, you'll have to like talk to your neighbors, and they'll know somebody that's round baling or square baling. So that's, and if you're going to have grazing animals, you're going to need something for them to eat during the wintertime.
Right. And some people do micro farming or micro homesteading. Basically, they may have like 3 sheep. They may have 25 chickens, have a garden, own just a couple acres, and that's it. Because they rotate everything out. The sheep and the chickens may get rotated, or at least the sheep get rotational grazing, and that helps so they're not just tearing up one spot and running out of food.
On our last homestead, we had 5 acres, and we had, 3 or 4 goats and 25 chickens, a German Shepherd, and
4 kids.
Yeah, 4 kids. And everything ran crazy, ran wild.
So we hope that answers your question, Christian. And if you have any more questions about this, or, just let us know. We don't want to take too long on this podcast. We just want to touch over a few things. Yeah,
you're wanting to talk about some gardening things?
Yeah, it's time to start seeding out. You probably already started seeding out, especially some things like tomatoes. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, we mentioned that our daughter's relocating to another state, and Christy was helping her, driving with her down there to get her car down there where she's moving to. And I was driving into town, and we were on the phone, and I asked her, I said, "Do you see the red buds blooming on the interstate as you're driving?" She's like, "Oh my gosh, yes." Well, the red buds blooming are a sign that it's time to start
seeding tomatoes.
Seeding out your tomatoes, getting ready for the garden.
Now that it blooms differently in different locations wherever you are. For us, and of course, this podcast will come out in a few weeks later than that. But some people have already started planting their garden. They start right after the new year, sitting down, planning what it's going to look like for them, writing down where they planted things last year because they may want to rotate those around, which is good. They want to see what seeds they need to order, things like that. Just to let you know, there are, different planting seasons. There's cool seasons, cold seasons, cool seasons, warm season, and hot season of planting. Some things work well in the cold season, and we're beyond that right now. But just for information, for next year for you, some things that work great. They're cold hardy. They can handle freezing and frost temperatures. That's things like cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, things like that. Arugula, spinach, Swiss chard, cilantro, things like
kale and Brussels sprouts.
The carrots and dill. Oh, you can also carrots and dill. You can also plant all that in like onions and garlic, and they go well through the winter. And then when the temperatures start coming up a little more, they start really taking off and doing their growing, and they handle those cold temperatures well. Then you've got cool season plants. That is more when the soil starts to get a little workable. And it's around 35 to 65. It can handle dipping into some frost temperatures, things like that. All those cold season type plants cross over into the cool season. That's a lot of your lettuces that work well in the cool season, your butternut crunch, iceberg, romaine, things like that, just your spring mixes.
And those do not do well in the heat of the summer. They go to seed.
They don't. And so it's good time to get them out there. You can get them out there in fall. They do well in the fall, especially as the later fall goes on. Really early spring, they do well when it's still cold. Even if it drops into frost temperatures, they still do well. Same way with your cilantro and celery, parsley, things like that. And your warm season plants. These are the things where really probably time you're hearing this podcast, these are going to be the things you're going to start thinking about really seeding out right now, and what to do with that. Some of these go great in the ground, just straight seeds go straight in the ground. or you can put them in a seed pot and seed them out and then transplant them. And those are, once again, all the things that I've mentioned will do well, already mentioned in the cool and cold seasons, will still grow well into the beginning of the warm season. It's just when it starts to get hot, they'll go to seed. So you've got to keep an eye on those things. But good things that you can you can start doing a lot of flowering. Put out your flowers out there, your marigolds, zinnias, other flowers. Some of these are great because putting the flowers out in your garden attract pollinators. They attract the bees and the butterflies and helps pollinate your garden. It also repels other bugs, especially marigolds. And I have to think about it right now. A couple other plants do well. A lot of your herbs that you plant with other plants repel bugs. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But you're at this point, once it starts getting warmer, your lettuces are going to go to bolt. So, one of the things about a lot of lettuces is you harvest in the moment. You can go out there and pick so many leaves off for your dinner and then go back out there a few days later and do it again. And it just keeps growing throughout the growing season. But those start to go to bulk. Peas. Peas are another thing to plant in the cool season. And peas will grow up a vine. So if you have a nice trellis for tomatoes, you can plant those peas in that spot in the cool season and they'll grow. And then when it gets warmer, you can plant the tomatoes kind of next to it, especially indeterminate tomatoes that grow over a vine, like a trellis. And the peas will grow first. And then about the time the tomatoes start getting big enough that they need that trellis, that's the time you're going to take all your peas up. So the tomatoes just go kind of almost in that same spot. And with that, but also this is the time that you're going to replace things like peas also with your beans, your green beans, things like that, your squash, your cucumber. You can do your zucchini at this time of the year, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, herbs like basil, oregano, mint, anything in your mint family, lemon balm, things like that. They do really well. Rosemary, during the warm season and the hot season, they do well. However, as it starts to get really hot, it's easy for oregano and basil and lemon balm and mint and all that to go to seed really well. So look at how you are to keep that. There'll be a little flowering start. You snip that off immediately. So it'll continue growing all year, all even through the hot parts.
So not letting it go to seed on purpose?
On purpose, unless you're ready for it to go to seed. Right. If you're not, if you want to get a lot more growing out of that, that's the thing about herbs are so wonderful is you can clip those herbs all summer long, all fall, all that. And some of these herbs don't do well in the real cold. So all the way through the fall, but you watch them because they'll start flowering. Continue to keep the tops clipped to keep them from flowering. And then when you get into the fall and you're done with these that aren't going to make it well over the winter, then you want to harvest the whole thing and you can take them inside. You can turn them upside down, hang them in not direct sunlight, but kind of close to a window to start drying. You can put them in a dehydrator or freeze dryer if you have it. Anyway, any one of these work well. So warm season plants do the best in 65 degrees to 85 degrees. Once again, those are going to be
around here 105 degrees.
Well, that's going to be your hot season plants, and I'll get to those. But once again, those are more like your tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, some of your basil, thyme, sage, rosemary, all of those kind of things. Your squash, zucchini, okra, things like that. They're going to all do well. Those good summer plants. Oh, also melons. Watermelon and cantaloupe. Those are great during this time of the year. If you can grow honeydew, great.
I remember growing up, I could not stand cantaloupe. I just didn't understand why people ate it. But then when we started gardening, it's like it just changed. It is so much better than the ones you get in the grocery store. Oh, yeah. And there was one year we planted so many stinking cantaloupe plants. We had Ziploc bags, you remember that?
Yep.
Of cantaloupe in the freezer that lasted like all year long. We had cantaloupe forever.
We just pulled them out and put them in smoothies.
Yeah.
And we did that. I remember one year when I was young, I never, ever, ever liked a tomato. Never. There was no way. I did not like tomatoes. And one day my dad had a homegrown tomato that he had grown. And he said, you haven't ever tasted a tomato until you have one homegrown. And not the kind that they say in the grocery store, these are homegrown. I'm not talking those things. I'm talking straight out of your garden grown tomato. And he said, come here, you've got to take a bite of this. So he put a little salt on it. So that was going to help matters for me.
He picked it off the vine, standing right there with a knife and a salt shaker.
He did. He did that a lot. He loved tomatoes. And he said, come here and take a bite. You got to take a bite. I'm going to say I was probably about 19 or 20, maybe 21, something like that. I'm not sure. And I took a bite of that, and that was the best tomato. I didn't even know tomatoes could taste so good. Ever since then, I love tomatoes off the vine. I do not buy them all year long in the store, because if I want a fresh tomato, it's going to have to wait till summertime. So for hot season growing, that's when it gets like 85 and up. Some people live in some, really hot temperatures, hotter than even where we live. And those plants will go great in the warm season and even better in the hot season. You can do loofah gourds. You can do other gourds. That's when your watermelon and cantaloupe really take off and do really well. Your pumpkins, you can start growing your pumpkins during that, or even before that. They'll take off in that hot season. Your peppers, your hot peppers, sweet peppers, everything. Okra really will take off from that. Your sweet potatoes, lima beans, black eyed peas, things like that really like that. When some of your other ones are struggling in the heat, if you just keep taking care of them, then you'll notice that as it gets through some of that hot season where it's not doing as well, if you're not ready to stop those plants, just keep watering and taking care of them, because once that heat of the summer goes away and the temperatures drop back a little bit, then those warm season plants will take back off with that.
A couple that I noticed we did not list: zucchini and cucumbers.
Oh, I said zucchini and squash. I didn't say cucumbers, though.
Cucumbers.
Yeah, cucumbers. Yeah, they grow. Yeah, you grow those on a vine, along the ground, whatever you want. Cucumbers, they grow really well in warm and hot season. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the warm season plants do really well in the hot season. But some of the things you can think about as far as companion planting. I have a lot of raised.
This means like your best friend comes over and y'all plant stuff? Is that
no, that's not it. Where you would plant, like a lot of people like to row plant, where they'll just plant all tomatoes and then they'll plant all one thing or half of one thing and half of another. And they don't think about mixing plants and planting them tight together. And that works really well in raised boxes. So if you're considering that raised boxes or have raised beds boxes, then you can plant so many plants together. So for instance, by planting carrots in the cool, they can still handle the hot, because what happens is you can plant a bushy plant like peppers. Maybe I'm trying to think of something that's kind of bushy like a pepper. But like peppers can be growing right next to carrots, and they'll grow up a little bushy, and the carrots are right below it, below ground, and they're getting shaded. So that really works for carrots.
Bush type tomato.
A bush tomato will work. So just a little bit on companion planting, where you will mix a bunch of plants together. You don't have to have a ton of one. You can mix several different things. It's okay. Let's just say planting peppers. You can plant peppers next to your onions and garlic until you're ready to pull out your onions and garlic. You can throw in your basil in the place of your onions and garlic at that time. You can put them in. You can do your dill and cilantro. They attract beneficial insects when onions and garlic will push away the bad insects. Things like thyme, you can plant that next to your radishes and tomatoes and peppers. So last year, one of the things I did in several of my boxes is I put tomatoes, I put peppers, bell peppers, I put garlic, I put oregano and basil, and all in one box, plus a couple of other things. And if you look at it, if that box, that's a box ready to make tomato sauce. Mm-hmm. Right there, just in that box alone, I have everything I needed pretty much to make tomato sauce. So you can look at it that way, because things like your basil and your oregano, that's going to repel bugs. And you got things like dill and chives and other things that's going to repel. So you can put in the cool seasons, Chive, you can plant next to kale, radishes, arugula, lettuce, spinach, carrots, all that. That can work in your cool season. Your rosemary repels carrot flies, cabbage worms, and mosquitoes. That's always good to also have around your patio is rosemary and citronella plants. I have those around. They repel those. Oregano, you can plant next to all of these same things. You can plant it next to your beans and peas and carrots and your tomatoes. Also, don't forget your flowers. Once again, put your flowers in there. They attract good insects, your pollinators. I put a lot of marigold around my tomatoes. Everywhere that I put marigold, I had hardly zero tomato worm issues. And tomato worms are, I don't know if it's in everywhere in the country, but I know it is terrible here.
They will devastate a tomato plant overnight.
Overnight. Just about. It'll mess it up. So whenever I plant basil, or when I planted basil and marigolds, I had no tomato worm issues. And I was so thankful for that. But, green onions, they repel carrot flies, cabbage worms also, aphids and slugs. They repel that. You can put that next to your lettuce and carrots and beets, your green onions, all your lettuces. Put those, next to your cabbage and broccoli. You can put all that there. You can put your chives around, all those kind of things. Depending on the time of the year, don't forget your companion herbs, your parsley and all that in your cool season. And then turn around in your warm season herbs, put that, plus your flowers, and they mix well. So they'll all mix well. So you can plant all those herbs along with your peppers and your tomatoes. Zucchini and squash are a lot harder because they grow really, really big, but you can trellis them. I've never put them on a stake. I'm going to actually try that this year for a couple of them and see how it goes. But they grow really big. So I kind of put those in more of a row garden. Mm-hmm. My zucchini and squash and my watermelon, they go more in a row. I do have some growing over the boxes. So they grow, I have them grow over and then down on the ground next to it. But you can also trellis melons, things like that. Trellis your cucumbers, your peas, your tomatoes, all that. That'll save up space. Mm-hmm. But this isn't full of all the companion planting understanding, but I hope this helped a little bit. But just remember some really good plants before we go that goes with tomatoes. You can plant all in your same area of tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers. You can put your beans, your basil, your rosemary, your thyme, your sage, your lavender, your marigold, all that stuff, all can go around tomatoes. And you really want to repel those bugs as much as you can. And these herbs really do help. Not only that, fresh herbs for your meals in the kitchen, dried at the end of the year for all year long. Just that one little seed, and you've got so much you can eat just from that seed. God is so good, mm-hmm. And he just does 100-fold and so much that we make and we do. And when we steward the land with the crops, then he just blesses it. And don't forget your watering, because right when I said that, sometimes there may be the blessing of rain and occasionally you go through that dry spell. Yep. So have the ability to water. Irrigation. But if you have more questions on companion planting or want a little deeper understanding of the cold, cool, warm, and hot season planting, let me know, because you don't have to look at zones as much as you got to look at temperatures and your frost, your last frost, your before frost, when you seed, when you go in the ground, things like that, and your temperatures during that same time. So, want to thank you so much for being a part of us today. Yeah. We hope you have a good week, and we'll give you an update next time on how all the babies are doing, and if we had any more, we'll tell you all about that. If you have a question, please send that in. DM me at Easy Farms Homestead on Instagram. Do that, let's just leave it at that for right now. We're still setting some things up, and we'll give you more information later. We hope you have a wonderful day. Amen. And that God blesses you all week. Anything you want to say before you sign off?
Nope, that's it. We've got a lot of information out there. And there's lots of resources out there for all this kind of information. And as far as looking for real estate for property, find you a realtor in your area or in the area that you're kind of looking in, and just sit with them and see what the prices are and what's available and the amenities on that. So
and think out what you think you want to do.
Yeah.
That'll help with
Yeah.
your future planning.
And that'll probably change.
Yes. Yes. What you think you're going to do, it will change eventually.
But you need to start
over
with a
time.
plan. Start with
Yeah.
a plan.
Okay. Well, have a great week.
Bye, everybody.